Hula, and thank you for joining me for my very first tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to do the kickstart, which is something that I struggled with for a long time when I started, but now I find it pretty easy. So I'm hoping that I can give you some techniques that'll help you get this down. And a couple of things before we get started. First, I recommend just wearing shorts. Since you're going to be kicking the hoop up to your knees and knee hooping, it's just going to be a lot easier for you to learn that way. And second of all, I recommend on the leg, not the leg you're going to be kicking with, but the other leg, having some kind of padding. So I wear just one sock, which doesn't always do the trick. Sometimes you need to. But it's easy to bruise yourself when you're learning how to do it. So I recommend that. And then finally, the size of the hoop probably matters. I'm sure you can do it with a bigger hoop, but I find it much easier to do with a lighter hoop. So I'm using a Poly Pro here. This is 36 inches. All right, let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is put the hoop flat on the ground, and you're going to position it so that it's draped over your foot and up against your ankle. Make sure that it's all the way back. If it's just lying on the top of your foot here, it may mess up the momentum. At least that's what I've found. And so now from the back view, just like this. Hopefully you can see that okay. Some people like to start with the hoop a little bit more back and to the side. You might find that helpful, but I would try it straight forward first. Step 2. Now that the hoop is draped across our foot, pushed up against the ankle, we're going to use our opposite foot on our heel and on the back of our ankle, right about there, to just simply kick the hoop around. Now this is where it gets tricky because the way you kick the hoop, how hard you kick it, really matters. When I first started, I was just pushing it back, trying to get as much momentum because I thought the more momentum I got, the better. Which actually, that doesn't help at all. Personally, I find it much easier to just give it a light tap around. And just practice doing that. This is where your sock's gonna come in handy, or whatever you're using for padding, because it can hurt a little bit. So just kick it around, just kind of practice kicking around. You don't have to have a ton of momentum. Just a nice solid push. I almost slide my foot back. So instead of just kicking it, that might bring the back of the hoop up and then it'll get all wonky. You just kind of slide your foot straight back, slide, just practice this a few times. Now let's do it from the back view. So the hoop is up against the ankle, just slide, 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 push, or push, push. So I guess part of the reason why the title of this trick is confusing is because it's called the kickstart. So you think you really have to kick it. I have seen some people do that and successfully, but for me, it was very frustrating. All right, ready for step 3. So we just learned how to push the hoop around. Once we do that, as soon as we're done pushing and our foot is up in the air, you're simply gonna set it beside your other foot. So they're side by side. They can be a little bit apart, that doesn't matter so much, as long as they're side by side. Ideally, the hoop is gonna land right up against both of your ankles. But sometimes when you're practicing this slow, it ends up somewhere else. That's okay, don't worry about that right now. Just try to get that motion down, because a lot of this is muscle memory and learning that. So for example, we're gonna push and down. Just get it back to your start, push and down. See how it's not always ending up right there? That's okay. Just get used to this motion. That was a little better. Just around and step in. Now let's do it from the back. Just give you another viewpoint. So push, step. Try it again, push, step, try it again, and push, step. Just keep drilling that. Step 4. This one's a little bit tricky. It does take time to learn. It's kind of like the first time you knee hooped and tried to hoop on one leg. You have to get that timing down. So the best thing to do is just to practice. This is going to be the lift. So you start, kick the hoop around, put it down by our side. Once we feel the hoop by our ankles up against both of them, this is where the lift comes into play. So on my right hand side, I'm just going to lift my foot straight up, like that. Other foot stays straight. So in place without the hoop, it's just a little lift. A lot of people, they kind of want to lift to the side because they're thinking, oh, it's got to go around, I got to spin it around. When you go to the side, the momentum gets off balance, it just gets very wonky. So just practice a couple times in place, just lifting your hoop. You can even just do this. And then try to put it together. So you're gonna push, when you feel it, lift up. Let's do it again. Push, when you feel it against the ankles, lift up. I was trying to talk and go at the same time, so that messed me up. And up, just like that. Don't worry about trying to keep it up. Just get that lift down, because that's very important. Okay, now let's try from the back. So push, lift up, and drop. Push, lift up, and drop. Push, lift up. Last thing that we need to do is to actually get the hoop going around our knees. And it's a little bit tricky because after you do the lift, your body needs to turn to the side, and there's a tendency for you to want to move your foot to the side when you lift. So you're turning, you kind of want to lift your foot. If it slightly turns to the side, that's fine. That might even help you if lifting it completely straight just isn't helping. But try to keep it as straight as you can. If you do turn it, just make sure it's slight. And then we're just going to turn our body and start hooping around the knees. And it may take you quite a few times before you get it. But if you get it once, it'll get easier and easier. I know this is the frustrating part. Make sure also that you have all the other steps down so that you don't have to actually think about each step as you're doing it. So we're going to kick it and go around the knees. I just would like to let you know I'm not an expert at this, so mine isn't as clean as some of those circus performers you see where they just give it a tap and it just goes straight up their body. So just a warning. I do not claim to be an expert, but I can help you get it. All right, let's try that again. Turn the body. Now, once you finally get it on your knees, where do you go from here? Well, that's just up to you. There's a lot you can do. You can do the shimmy and bring it up, or you can hoop on one leg. If you don't know how to do any of these tricks, I may make tutorials on them later, but there's plenty of great tutorials. Bring it back in, keep hooping. Oop, losing a little momentum there. That's okay. So let's try that move from the back. So push that lift, turn, and hoop. How fast you have to turn, how high you kick, really is going to depend on a couple things. It's going to depend on your hoop size and weight. So, okay, that one started a little bit more to the side. And another one for you to watch. And that one almost went to my waist. All right, voila, there you go. That is the kickstart from the ground to your knees. I really hope this helped. Let me know what you liked. Let me know if you didn't like anything, or if you're having trouble in one particular spot or something didn't make sense. Let me know that too, and hopefully I can help. Thanks, guys.